Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today in this video I'm going to review the Eachine Wizard TS215 FPV racing quadcopter. This quadcopter is available in two versions. You can either get the plug and play version, which means you will have to provide your own receiver, and you can also get a bind and fly version, which comes with an FrSky XM Plus radio receiver. In this video I'm going to overview the quadcopter's features, show you how to set it up, and finally take it for a test flight and give you my conclusion. So let's start by opening the box and see everything we get inside. Inside the box we get in 4 landing pads, 2 sets of Dalprop Cyclone T5046 propellers, zip ties, 2 Eachine battery straps, carbon ranges, this carbon Kalashnikov rifle, an omnidirectional LPSMA antenna, which looks pretty much like the TBS Triumph antenna, just with the Eachine logo, battery bottom plate holder with a sticker and 2 landing pads, nuts for the propellers, extra screws, the quadcopter itself, and on the bottom we can find this battery sticker for the bottom of the quadcopter. As you can see, this quadcopter has a very distinct look, and before shouting in the comment section that this is a clone of the Hyperlight Frost frame, I can tell you that it's not. The only things that were copied are the top plate and maybe the placement of the VTX, but besides that, this is nothing like the Hyperlight Frost frame. Eachine could have easily avoided this issue by using a different top plate, but I think in their point of view there is no such thing as bad publicity, and they wanted to draw more attention to this quadcopter, and that's the reason they chose to use this top plate. So after getting this off the table, let's start by overviewing the features of this quadcopter. Now I'm going to quickly go over the specifications of the quadcopter. First of all, it uses 2306 2450 kV motors from Eachine. They support between 2 to 6 S-LiPo batteries, just like the ESC controllers, which are now separated, and this quadcopter, unlike the other Wizards, is not using a 4-in-1 ESC controller. These are the TS40 BLLE32 ESC controllers, and they can support up to D-Shot 1200. On the back we can find the XT60 connector. I highly recommend to add a zip tie in order to make sure in case of a crash these battery pads are not going to get detached. On the right side of the quadcopter we can find this RPSMA antenna connector. Over here we have the S-Bus connector. It connects to the board, so this is the plug and play version, which means I'm going to connect my own receiver. By the way, it connects to this end and it shows here 3.3 volts, but I checked it, this is actually 5 volts. So if you're using a receiver that needs 5 volts, don't worry, just use this plug and you're going to be good to go. On the middle of the quadcopter we can find the onboard DVR, which I highly recommend to remove. I'm going to perform a latency test and you will be able to see for yourself that it adds latency and you shouldn't use it. On the top we can find the VTX. It has a selectable output strength of 25, 200, 500 and 800 milliwatts, and it's controlled either using this button on the side, or the preferred way is to use it with the smart audio, which is already wired, so it will make the procedure of configuring this VTX very easy. Finally, on the front we can find this camera, which is the same camera that was used on the X220S. This is an 800 TV line CCD camera, but I just checked, and on the new model of the TS215, now they ship it with the RunCam Swift 2, which is an excellent camera and for sure is going to outperform this simple camera from Eachine. The weight of the quadcopter without the battery is 299.2 grams, so it's going to be probably around 300 grams after adding the propellers and the receiver. The thickness of the arms is 4 millimeters, and the thickness of both bottom and top plate is 3 millimeters. The next thing I'm going to do is to measure the latency while using this DVR unit when recording and not recording the video file, and after that I'm going to disassemble the DVR unit and check the difference. So both when recording and not recording DVR, the latency was about 140 milliseconds, which is a huge latency, and now I'm going to remove the DVR unit in order to measure the latency without the DVR board. Removing the DVR unit is pretty simple. All you have to do is disconnect this end, and you're going to need to connect the camera directly to the board. This is not the same connector as the one on the board, so we'll have to just take it out, and then I recommend to remove it using the tweezer and use the correct pins over here. So I'm going to show in a second how to do it. If you still wish to use this DVR unit, I recommend to connect it in parallel to the camera and not let the video pass through this DVR unit, which causes the delay. I'm not going to use this DVR unit in this video because I plan to add the RunCam split to this quadcopter, and I'm going to do it on one of my next videos. Now, after making sure that the video is working properly, I'm going to wrap it up and then measure the latency without the DVR unit. So now, after the DVR unit was removed, the latency was cut almost in half and is about 80 milliseconds. The equipment I used is not accurate, but because I used the same equipment to measure the latency with the DVR unit and without it, it gives us a good estimation. The next thing I'm going to do is to add an FrSky RXSR receiver, then go through Betaflight's settings, and then take it outdoors for a test flight using 3S, 4S, and 5S batteries, and I'll see you in the end of this video in order to give you my conclusion. So unfortunately, after a pretty small crash, this VTX is not working properly anymore, and now I'm going to replace it with this VTX from AJLRC, and hopefully this one is going to perform better. So I'm quickly going to change it and then head over to the field again to test this quadcopter. So after changing the VTX and getting rid of the onboard DVR, the Eachine Wizard TS215 makes a great ready-to-fly quadcopter, but I think that the whole point of getting a ready-to-fly quadcopter is not having to tweak it. So I really wish that Eachine could first of all use a better VTX, and second of all choose not to include the onboard DVR that only adds lag and makes this quadcopter not as fun to fly as it is right now. The included VTX was actually performing quite well before I crashed this quadcopter, but it just stopped working after a pretty minor crash. The reason I put this tape on my RunCam tree is because after crashing it, the micro SD card was ejected and I lost the HD footage, so I highly recommend to put some tape on the micro SD card slot in order to prevent such thing to happen to you as well. Another suggestion to Eachine is to include an HD camera mount. You can see that I used this mount just by cutting 2 holes, and then I used a longer screw in order to secure it, but I got tons of vibrations. I'm not really sure if it was caused by the quadcopter or by this mount, and after I'm going to change this camera to the RunCam Split 2, I'm going to find out, and then I'm also going to try to tune this quadcopter. The main problem with this mount that it's very hard to remove, so if you want to remove it you will have to take off these 2 screws and also to remove the zip ties on the side, so it's not really convenient, and replacing the camera with the RunCam Split 2 is going to solve this issue because the performance of the RunCam Split 2 is almost identical to the RunCam 3. So overall, if you're looking for a ready-to-fly quadcopter that is both suitable for beginners and advanced pilots, I think the Eachine TS215 is going to be a great choice. Just take into consideration that you need to order also a spare VTX, and I think this VTX from AGRC so far performed great and you should consider it. And in addition, you will need to spend about 10 minutes of your time to remove the onboard DVR unit. As always, I thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it and you find it useful. If you have any questions about this quadcopter, feel free to ask it in the comment section down below. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you like this video, and consider subscribing to my channel if you're not already subscribed. See you on my next videos, and goodbye.